Now, a lot of the members here also on armed services were meeting simultaneously, so I missed opening statements and maybe questions that had already been asked, but I'm really interested in this. Going back many years ago to my old mayor's days, that was a great concern we have. We're concerned about the airlines. I can remember when we first, I was mayor when you guys first came in, and I was out there recruiting you. And let me ask you, when you refer to a medium-sized airport, what Lambert is what, and what kind of, I should know, but I don't.
Right, that's okay. A medium size is 5 million to 15 million.
Okay.
And this past year, Lambert had just shy of 14 million.
Okay. Well, and the fight has been there for a long time. I recall when PFCs first came on. And, of course, they started out very, very low. That's, I think the last change was made a couple of years ago. It went from $3 to $4.50. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, if you look at the AIPs, and I can remember when the AIPs, it was partially my effort to try to get them to be more of a concern for regional, instead of just the large regional airports, getting into some of the smaller fields like mine in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So you've got the AIP, you've got the PFC, you've got other sources like the other revenues generated from the airports, but I haven't heard anyone say anything, at least since I came in, about municipal bonds. Now, where do they fit? You were doing a nice comparison, Mr. Montgomery, when I first came in, as to these different sources, your tools in your toolbox. Where is new municipal bonds? How do they fit in?
Yes, Senator, I think that the municipal bonds are extremely important, and that's where we're in full agreement with Rhonda and with all of the airports. I said that 55% are financed by the local term is GARBs, the General Airport Revenue Bond, which is a form of municipal bond. So it's a tax-free instrument and allows us to borrow money at low rates. And we think because that is the biggest tool in the investment toolbox, it's absolutely essential that we maintain that tool and sharpen it if we possibly can.
Well, now, have you been using that tool?
We have, and we agree that that tool absolutely has to stay. But in an airport like St. Louis Lambert, we built a $1 billion runway several years ago. And so right now, we still have a significant amount of debt that we're paying down. So the opportunity for us to go out and use municipal, we have not gone out for bond sales since 2009, and that was a very small one to do a terminal renovation. Again, AIP doesn't cover terminal renovation, so we had to do bonds for that. But we haven't had the ability to really go out for bond sale at this point because of the heavy burden of debt. So one of the things that I think is important is that the PFCs could also allow us to pay down that debt more aggressively.
You can use those funds to
Absolutely. We could use those funds to pay down our debt more aggressively. That makes us more competitive from a cost perspective, hopefully attracting more airlines to grow in St. Louis. So that's another tool that the PFC cap would give us by allowing us to pay that debt more aggressively.
That might, as Mr. Montgomery said in his testimony, have the effect of reducing the overall ridership that generates the revenue necessary, not only for your improvements, but to pay off the debt.
You know, probably it's one of the points we disagree on, because I think, again, you have to look at the free market competition. We wouldn't raise our PFC so much that it put us out of competition with other airports. Yeah. We would make sure that we watch that very closely and that we're keeping that at a rate that allows customers to still fly and connect through St. Louis as well as the local customer.
Now, the $4.50, that's a cap.
That's correct.
That's correct. All right. Now, is proposed somewhere, and I'm new on this committee, so I haven't been into a lot of these issues, but there is a proposal to increase, I think, to $8. Is that correct?
There's been a number of proposals out there to have an uncapped, to go to $7.50, to go to $8, so it's been a little bit over them.
Yeah, I don't think that was actually in our reauthorization, but it was a consideration at that time. Now, would you encourage, not that you have to go to the cap, but increasing the cap so that capacity is there should you call upon it?
I'm sorry, I didn't
hear. Would you be for increasing the cap?
I would be for increasing the cap, yes.
And you would not be for increasing the cap?
Yeah, I would not, and it's, when I hear things like a 450 cap, again, that applies to just one leg. The
Steve,
passenger
that's-
pays it on 4, so each passenger, a passenger who connects somewhere and goes back could be subject to a $36 PFC, and to increase it makes that, even much more, and that's why I'm concerned that the large tax burden starts to shape people's purchasing decisions, because they're looking at the entire cost of travel and not the cost at one airport, such as
I
St.
understand.
Louis.
My time has expired, but I think that makes a pretty good argument there. It is, when you increase, if you double this, you're more than doubling it, because you have, it's per leg, and it could be a very, very prohibitive thing that might have the adverse effect that you don't want to happen in terms of your ridership.
Right. And the only add I would add to that, and again, Southwest doesn't do this, but all the other carriers are charging the bag fee, the preferred seat fee, they're charging change fees, so they're charging significant dollars, far more than a PFC. So maybe if the airlines could look at that piece of it, again, Southwest doesn't follow that model, but all the other carriers do, and that's a far more burden on the passenger than the PFC.
Thank you very much.
Senator Gardner.